Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanula Bhartanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. We salute the Lord Krishna, world teacher, son of Vasudeva, destroyer of Kamsa Chanula, supreme bliss of Devaki. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May He nourish us, may He protect us both, may He give us great vigor in our activities. May that vigor reflect in our studies. May we not cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace beyond all. So we normally start off with, are there any questions? So if there are no questions, we are studying Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And just to recap a few things, so, last week we started off from the 22nd stanza, and for those unfamiliar with the subject matter, Vishwarupa is the supreme form of what religion calls God. And our understanding is, or a fundamental question is always asked, is God with form or formless? And there are some religions who naturally assume that there's no form, but there may be qualities. For example, Islam will have typically a formless aspect. The Brahma Samaj would have had a formless aspect. And so typically one of the questions that Sri Ramakrishna would ask is, do you believe in God with form or without form? And it was an unusually posed question to many people because people didn't think that there could be a God without form and a God with form, both. But he pointed out, whatever your answer was, I believe in formless, yes, that's fine, very good. But don't think that that's the only thing, because God is with form also. And in the counterwise, he would say, yes, it's good that you believe in God with form, but God is also formless. That being is also formless. And so here in this chapter, not only are we discovering infinite forms, but actually just one form also. So it's put like this: Rupam mahatte buhu vaktra netram mahabahu bahu bahura padam bahu dharam bahu damstra karalam drista lokaha pravyatish tidash tataham. Seeing what? Rupam Mahat, immeasurable, great. Seeing this great form, not forms, but with myriad mouths and eyes. So what we thought was forms is actually one form with many, many different parts, mouths and eyes everywhere. So the idea about it is this: when we look at the universe, we cannot measure it. Science, with all its great instruments, will never find the end of it according to this, because it's immeasurable. And when we try to measure it, we come across some discrepancies, because we realize that any question posed will have a counter question from where are you looking at it. There's no standard view, that's the problem. We may have a standard view of time because we work on solar time. Your watch or your clock is simply imitating the movement of the earth around the sun. That's all it's doing. But other suns are there moving at different rates. And then when you view time in a relative sense, you'll find there's no standard measurement. And when you move toward an object at the speed of light, time changes completely. And the photons don't have any time, nor do they have any mass. So you see, it's a very unreliable thing to say there's something fixed that we can measure. It's completely immeasurable. And so, with myriad eyes, we covered this last week, myriad arms, myriad eyes, countless thighs, feet, and so on, is described as an anthropomorphic body. Something that seems to be human, described like that for our human understanding, and put in symbols that we understand of physical eyes, physical mouth, and so on. And that's the language I pointed out last week that modern science uses, that we find black holes devouring things. See the language? And so all of this is there, and not only that, but myriad tusks, that is threatening things, interpreted by us as threatening, and the worlds are terror-struck. And if you recall from last week, Arjun comes to the conclusion that everything everywhere is unfamiliar, everything is terror-struck, and he mentions, so am I. And then he goes on, when I see you touching the sky, he says, Nabha, Spratsham Diptam Aneka Varnam, Vyatanam Dipta Vishala Netram, Dristha hi Tvam Pravyati Antarama, Dhritim na Vindami Samancha Vishnu. When I see you, not touching the sky literally, see, that's how it's interpreted. Sprasham, that is the unlimited. When you look into the sky, there's an unlimited vista. There are some people who say, and we all say, just out of habit, from an egocentric and geocentric point of view, up in the sky. But who knows if it's up or down? When you're saying up, the Australian is saying down or up, or his up is your down, and so on, because we are not seeing things from a non-geocentric point of view. So where is the direction? There's absolutely no direction anywhere. And so what we mean by the sky, we mean space, really. We mean unlimited space. And blazing with what? Blazing with so many varnam, so many colors, so many different colors. Now supposing, not in a dream, but supposing, not even in a cartoon, supposing you come across a creature that has no limits anywhere. Wherever you look, you can't find the end of it. That it is blazing, not just with standard colors, but many colors and many variations thereof, infrared, ultraviolet, etc., supposing you can see all that. And something that has mouths, not just one mouth, mouths wide open, with large fiery eyes coming at you, how will you feel? How will you feel? You see, we all like to have a beneficent God, a form that we love to cherish and adore and offer flowers to and so on. All of this is good, and this great, great Lord of the universe presents himself in a form suitable for us. The God's love is undeniable, but God is love to those devotees who understand this. But the universe itself is the universe, and to conduct its rhythmic play, it requires birth, life, and death, and destruction, both. And we don't need another entity to do it. One entity is enough. And so the effect that you will find if you come across such an entity is that your heart will tremble in fear, and that's exactly what is mentioned. Terrified. Pravyatita antaratma, terrified at the heart, trembles in fear and finds neither courage nor peace. And this is addressed to, O Vishnu, the one that is found everywhere, the one that is pervading everywhere, with no space, no time. So it's but natural that one gets unnerved when one is driven into an inconceivable, world-devouring sight. One gets settled understanding, actually, only when one realizes that fury and calmness are concomitant in the ocean of the cosmic being. And so Arjun confesses the effect of the terror created in his mind. But he asked for it, of course. So he goes on. Tamstra karalini chate mukani drutstaiva kalanala samni bani disho na jane na labe cha sharma prashida devesha jagani vasa. Fearful, tamstra karalan, fearful with tusks, when I see your mouths with these terrible, terrible pointy things like arrows, tusks, threatening things, resembling pralaya fires, we have to understand, resembling a situation where, in modern parlance, we find a big crunch, a destruction of the entire universe. Now I have to explain. You see, there are two things that can happen to the universe with the current understanding. Either it can go on expanding into oblivion, things getting lonelier and lonelier and lonelier, and disappearing into a state of potentiality, what we call pralaya. Or it can finish an expansion cycle and go the other way and go into a crunch, go into reverse, into a big crunch, that kind of end. So this is what modern science is debating, whether it's this one or that one. But this is mentioned here. He says, I know not the four quarters, nor do I find any peace. I'm familiar with directions, north, south, east, west. I'm familiar with the geocentric position. But because this is all confusing, all new to me, all novel, all terrifying, nothing to compare it with or measure it with, then I don't find any peace. So then he prays, be gracious, O Lord of all shining things, all deities, O abode of the universe. This is the entity acknowledged as the place where the universe sits, where it fits into, it's within this. See, the quarters are discerned with the help of the astronomical bodies, such as sun, moon, the pole star, for example, and all the various configurations in the astronomical sky. But let it be supposed that one gets immersed in the womb of the blazing and boundless sun. Imagine that, just as an example. So in such a situation, the quarters and directions are all lost of sight of. And Arjuna finds himself in such a position now, like the fire of the dissolution of the universe, the all-consuming blaze of the cosmic form has confounded him. And therefore, as a result, he is begging the Lord to withdraw what his own request was, that terrible form. He didn't realize there'd be this aspect, and to resume the calm and gracious form that we all know and love, or at least we love. That's his request. Now this provokes a question. So we'll go on a little bit because I want to highlight the question, and we'll backfill, as it were. See? So what he's saying is, he's asking a question. He's saying, eventually he comes to this question, tell me who you are, so fierce in form. I bow down to you, O God Supreme, have mercy. I desire to know you, the Primal One. And here's the important question, I know not your purpose. We'll come back to expanding on why this is an important question. Because people look around in confusion, and there's lack of understanding and knowledge of where we are and what we're doing. It's like we came into a movie in the middle, as I mentioned before. We didn't come in at the beginning, and we're not going to stay for the end. And we have to try and work out what is there in between. And this happens, you know, you go in and somebody is busy watching something, and then To their annoyance, you say, who's that? What are they doing? I said, no, you have to watch it from the beginning. So do we have an insight into what this beginning is? That's the point. So let's go back and find out what is the background to this question. Amicha tvam dhritarashtrasya putraha sarve saheva punipalasam kaya Bhishmo Drona Sutta Putras Tataso Saha Smadhya Api Yodam Mukyaha. Then also, this is 26-27 combined. It says, Vaktrani te taramana vishanti damstra karalani vayana kani kechit vilagnya dashanantarashu samdrishanti chunite uta mankaha. All the sons, don't forget this is in the context of war, and all the sons of Dhritarashtra, you have to understand the context, with hosts of kings of the earth, Bhishma, Drona, who we know, also Sutaputra, with the warrior chiefs of ours, Sutaputra, son of the charioteer, it stands for Karna. Karna was, just to remind you, the son of the sun. And there's a story behind that, but you'll read the Mahabharata and understand that. Long and the short of it is that his mother is actually the same mother as the Pandavas. And there's an equivalent story, equivalent to the Jewish story of Moses. So she gets a boon, and his mother, and the boon is that she can have a child, even prematurely, that she asked from the supreme deity of life, the sun, Surya. And so she gets a son, but now, how to manage this? Because she's unmarried, and so what she does is, she, very much like Moses, puts the son in a basket, floats it down the river, that kind of thing, and it's discovered by a charioteer. Charioteer happens to be in the Kauravas' camp, and so he grows up like this. But there's a very interesting side story on it. Being the son of a charioteer, he's not entitled to learn all the military skills that he sees around him. And so he asked Drona, who is the main mentor in archery, can he be initiated into the art of archery? And of course, no, you're not of our caste. And so he seeks Drona's teacher, Parashurama, and his teacher will only take on Brahmins. And so he dresses up like a Brahmin and goes along, and he accepts him. And he, being the son of the sun itself, he learns the skills comparable to his teacher himself, and is very much praised and so on and so forth. Anyway, one day, his teacher is resting his head on his lap, and a bee comes along and stings his leg, and he doesn't move. He doesn't move because he doesn't want to disturb his guru. The guru awakens and sees the blood gushing out, and then he realizes you cannot be a Brahmin. To withstand this with such forbearance, you must be of a different caste. You must be in the warrior section. And so he got angry, and then withdrew certain powers and so on, and then modified that and recounted. But the long and the short of it was that he could not use the powers. I mean, he could use only one weapon, and this was therefore used overall in the war of the Mahabharata. And if you read the story, which is not enough time to go into all of that, plus other things, you'll see so many interwoven side adventures which make exciting reading apart from anything else. But anyway, this is all this, so this is mentioned here. 3 people are mentioned because the powerful people here are Bhishma, who's known for his wonderful character, Drona, and don't forget Karna, and of course these people are people that made Arjun hesitate in the beginning. I don't wish to slaughter all these people. But despite his wish or his lack of enthusiasm to do that, he realizes it's their fate anyway. Birth, life and death is not within the remit of our control. And so what he sees in this vision, because when he sees the cosmic understanding, cosmic vision, don't forget, there's no past or present or future, not in our sense of things. And so what he sees is the fate. All these hosts of kings of the earth, Bhishma, Drona, Sutaputra, with the warrior chiefs of ours, enter, hurrying into your cosmic mouth. Terrible with tusks and fearful to look at. Some are found sticking in the gaps between the teeth with their heads crushed to powder. Wonderful graphic thing. Should we be very shy about this? Should we be sensitive about this? If you have this cosmic vision, this cosmic understanding, you realize there's only one entity, one without a second, which means there's no fear whatsoever. We realize this is a drama. All of this universe is nothing more than a cosmic drama. So the object of the impending great war is to rid the world of the dead weight of the human weakness, to restore a balance. And all of this is there to restore. Don't forget, from age to age I come. Whenever there's a need, to restore harmony and balance. And we may not like the way this balance is going, but we have a broader perspective. We'll see that the whole of the universe is in a state of rhythm, with gravity pulling things in, electrical energy pulling things out. And if it wasn't for these 2 opposing forces, we wouldn't be here to talk about it. We have to have matter, we have to have antimatter. We have to have galaxies colliding with galaxies. We have to have a web, a network of time and space in which we operate. This is a cosmic vision now of our own making that we have a little insight into, a small insight into, with modern technology, with all the modern weaponry, if you like, scientific weaponry, if you like, of very, very precise telescopic instrumentation beyond the disturbances of the Earth. Starting off, of course, with the Hubble telescope and now the Planck telescope and so on. So many things are there. And more or less every year something is being launched in some way to give us a deeper insight into the deeper mysteries of space. We understand now how expansive it is, which is incredible when you think that maybe 100 years ago or so, it was thought that when we looked into the sky, not up, let's say down, just to get our orientation better, when we looked down into the sky, we thought that all the things that we are seeing are within our own Milky Way galaxy, and there's nothing more than that. Previous generations thought it was our own solar system, and now it's our own galaxy. And now we realize, oh, no, 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 there is something like 200 trillion of these things. All right. Yata nadinam bahavo bhuvegaha samudram eva bimukha dravanti tata tavami dara loka vira vishanti vaktranye abhivi jivalanti. Truly, as the many torrents of rivers rush towards the ocean, just to give a simile, so do these heroes in the world of men fling themselves into your fiery flaming mouths. As moths rush headlong into a blazing fire for destruction, another simile being used, so do these creatures hurriedly speed into your mouths for their destruction. Yata pradiptam jvalanam pratanga Vishanti nashaya samriddha vegaha tadeva nashaya vishanti lokas tavapi vaktrani samriddha vegaha. So as moths rush headlong into a blazing fire, and then we are told, devouring all the worlds on every side, with your flaming mouths, you lick your lips, your fiery rays filling the whole world with radiance are burning. Again, O Vishnu, the one who is all-pervading. So in his dissolution, he supplicates as follows. And here's the important question. Akyahi me ko bhavan ugra rupo namostu te devavara prasida vijnatum echami bhavantam adyam adi prajanami eva pravritim. Tell me who you are. I thought I knew who you are. Tell me who you are. You're unfathomable, indescribable, so fierce in form. I bow down to you, O God Supreme, have mercy. I desire to know you, the Primal One. If you want to know that entity, you have to go beyond the small borders of your own experience. And then the crucial question, or the crucial statement, is this. Prajanami, I know, Tavadai, but written doing, I know not who you are. What is your purpose? Is there a purpose? Now there are some that say there's no purpose, because all of this description seems very chaotic and random. And really the only difference between a theist and atheist is one says with a capital C by chance, the other one says with a capital G by God, that's all. Otherwise, no difference. But you see, both are agnostic unless they really do something about it. So, there's a crucial question. Some say there's no purpose, and others say there must be a purpose. We don't know what it is, agnostic position. And those who are the mystics, they know, or it's revealed to them, what is the purpose. And so it's a very important answer that comes. And it comes like this, in a very almost obscure way, but a beautiful way. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Blessed Lord said, Kalosmi lokakasha kri pravradho lokan samahartam iha pavrataha ritepi tvam na bhavishyanti sarve ye vastitaha pratyanekeshu yodaha. I am the mighty world-destroying time. And this is repeated throughout the Gita. I am the mighty world-destroying time. There's a second. I don't know where it's gone forever. It'll never come back. So time is a destroyer, principally. You think that life is going well for you, and it may well be. But bear in mind that time is a kind of stream that runs, and every second, every moment is your last moment. You have to think, fix your mind on God, it said, at the last moment, to carry you forward, propel you forward. But every moment is the last moment. Should you not consider this blank check called a second and see what you should put in there? And it's the Lord Himself offering you an opportunity with hands outstretched. Come, my child, put something useful in. And typically we put, I hate my neighbor's nose, or I'm worried about the borders or the finances or whatever it is. Somebody said something against me, what a pity. And then you have a sleepless night. Wake up in the middle of the night. How dare they say that? That's what goes on. More seconds wasted. Time devouring all the time. And that is why time and death are really synonymous terms. So I am the world destroying. I'm destroying this world continuously. And now we come to an inclination of what is my purpose. Having projected all this world, I'm now busy, bringing it back. I'm busy allowing it to rush toward a state of pralaya, termination, starting it and finishing it. So, wiping out the world, even without you, even without your effort, all these warriors arranged in hostile armors shall not live. Now a revelation should occur to Arjuna. In fighting and being exhorted to be fighting, and his role in the war is only carrying out what is cosmically destined anyway. And he's just playing his part. He is not responsible for the death of anybody or the life of anybody. It's the Lord who is responsible. It's the Lord who is giving life and taking it away. It's the Lord who's projecting and destroying. Only He's doing it, using you and me as instruments. In the cosmic drama, a very different way of looking at things. But what does Vedanta do? Vedanta tells us, in order to come up with a solution, we have to shift our thinking and look at things in new ways. Otherwise, we'll become fixed in a small world and evaluating all the people and places and events around us in a very small-minded, limited way, acting and reacting within a small circle of experience. Broaden that up, see things in a different way. You study the Upanishads, they are all designed to shake you up and make you look at things in a different way, to take your current evaluation and shake it up a little bit so that you revalue it in many different possible ways. And in this way, you get a different understanding, a broader truth. If you want to know what is the truth about something, you have to be prepared to look at things creatively and use the capacity for open-mindedness. So in spite of a lifelong companionship with Sri Krishna, what Arjuna has come to know him is very little. What remains to be known is much. So that's why this question rises, tell me who you are. And the answer, of course, I am the mighty world-destroying time, is one among the numerous definitions of this Supreme Lord that we call technically Ishvara. So he is also known, of course, as Mahakala. We think that, you see, if we have a Trinity, and it confuses many people, that there is a creator, sustainer, and dissolver separately. No, you're one entity there, with all these three different functions. So, Mahakala is the name. And then this answer solves the immediate puzzle in the mind of Arjuna. So all the events in nature get buried in time. That's the point of it. Relentlessly and constantly, it's consuming everything. And again, it's time that measures all events. How can you measure something without doing it in time? You must have heard of double-slit experiment. That is what is called Young's experiment. So fundamental to a new understanding of physics. When you put a small particle, let's say a photon, and you project it through a slit, it arrives on a scintillating screen. And when you put two slits there, then it arrives not as a strip or a band where it should directly hit, but it comes as what is called interference wave pattern. That is, it behaves like a wave. How is it? And then when we try to measure it, it behaves like a particle. But the answer is very simple. Its natural way of behaving in space is in an unlimited way. It has the freedom to move as a wave. But when we try to measure it, we see the time aspect. It's a very simple explanation. And people are trying to figure out this and that and the other. But space and time are so connected, says Einstein in his special relativity. When we see the space aspect, it's unlimited. It behaves like a wave, where particles go simultaneously everywhere. Just as you see particles of water, you can't define where one drop went or the other drop went. See, It just is one single homogeneous entity and moves like that and interferes with itself. In other words, a wave comes here, a wave comes there, an interference pattern, and there you find it measured. So it's a head-scratching moment for people. But the point is, if you try to measure this, then you see, you'll find that it is immeasurable conclusively. And that is why we're uncertain about it. This is Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So as Akasha contains all manifested things in itself, time contains all events or causation in itself. That requires some explanation. For Akasha, we can put in other words, such as ether, or time, or material, or potential matter, and from there everything else comes. As one ascends a hill, one sees the ups and downs below merging into a vast expanse. And in the same way, using that as an example, in the infinitude of time, all the happenings in the universe get swallowed. So this time is truly the Lord. I come as time. Now we have, in this day and age, the emphasis on this, the feminine form as Kali. And that is why we find Ramakrishna, for example, who's emphasizing this aspect because you get a true understanding of it. Wonderful, wonderful text on this, an explanation of this, is from Sister Nivedita herself. And we came across, when Swami Mahayogananda was here, he came across a text which was a letter really to an unborn child, putting it in childlike simple language, using the concept of hide and seek. And yet you see this Kali is an all-devouring entity and yet beneficent to those who love her. That kind of thing. So we find this link. I know not your purpose is the frightened inquiry made by Arjun. And this is a critical, crucial question. The Lord deals with that mystery because he says he's intent on wiping out the world. What's your purpose? My purpose is to wipe the world out. Like putting something on the blackboard. What's your word? Wipe it off. Is there any point in putting it there in the first place? Well, don't ask me. This is the Lord's way, where he himself unfolds and then he himself withdraws. In fact, the process of unfolding comes to its natural conclusion, a cyclical understanding of things. So death, in fact, is taking place ceaselessly. We don't like to think of it. We keep death as a skeleton in the closet, not wanting to address it. But bear in mind, what we call death is only death of a form. We only find transformational causation. Something changes into something else. Just to remind you of the typical thing, you're probably tired of me saying it, but I'll say it anyway, just for the fun of it. And not shy about repeating. So you see, supposing you decide to put this body into the earth, it doesn't remain in its current form, it decomposes, and the maggots get hold of it, and so on and so forth. And what is left is just a few bones and things like that. And the rest is transformed. It's transformed into food and nutrients, and the worms and so on have the capacity to aerate the soil, and you have the capacity to plant potatoes in it. And you can munch and crunch on the potatoes and you have no idea you're eating the Swami. So what happened to this body? It was simply transformed. Everything is transformed. Transformational causation is what we know. And modern science depicts this in a very, very solid law, the law of conservation of energy and matter, that nothing can be created new. No, nothing is created or destroyed. It's all the same. When you do a mass balance, it amounts to be the same. So all this drama is taking place ceaselessly, and when it is scattered and spread out, it's called the law of nature. But when it's concentrated, it's called a catastrophe. When it's spread out, we hardly notice it. But when it's concentrated, oh, what a pity, what a catastrophe. The Lord has this work of extermination done in both ways, both specifically, catastrophically, and generally and spread out, both ways, extensively and intensively. The Mahabharata war, in which this book is centered, is an instance of his intensive destruction of mankind. When we say that, this Mahabharata war is a historical account. Even though we might find woven in embellished stories and dramas, the core of it is historical. It is an itihasa, a historical account. Same thing as Ramayana. And it must have had such a terrible impact that all the great people, warriors of their day, and kings and noble people were decimated completely. That would have stood out in the memory of man for eons. So whenever a need for it arises, he does it very effectively. He truly adores God, who sees his hand at work in all destructions, small and great. Anybody who takes a negative attitude, which is very easy today, will understand, oh no, it's part of this drama. It's very easy to sit and listen to the BBC News or whatever other news and find out, oh dear, this is happening there. The world is on fire here. People are doing this bad thing here. People have no sense of humanity or compassion there. The whole place seems to be on fire and ablaze. It seems that man got degraded in intelligence and the whole world has gone berserk. But it's only because you are more aware of it. And sooner or later this whole galaxy will find itself on a collision course, as it is now with Andromeda. The whole thing will be swallowed up. Don't worry about it, not in your lifetime. The sun itself is only due to be around for 5 billion years. Don't worry about it. You won't be here to see it. Not in your current form anyhow. And so, where does that leave us in practical life? It leaves us with a sense of drama and fearlessness. It leaves us with the opportunity to conduct our life in a very, very instrumental way, seeing this great drama and not being perturbed by what we analyze as negative. Then there's nothing to criticize, nothing to blame. But should we stand by in the face of moral ineptitude or moral negativity? No, we do what we can, but that itself is part of the drama because there's nothing we can do by ourselves. This would be pride, a kind of egoism, a kind of actor-prophet complex, which does not really belong to us. I'm acting and I get the reward of it. That concept has to shift, and we have to yield to this understanding that we are happy to be instrumental in the cosmic drama, which is unfathomable and which goes away, because we cannot have Brahman and this world simultaneously coexisting. That means that when we realize Brahman in its fullness, the world disappears like a dream. That is what Vedanta states. And when we're engrossed in the world, this Brahman is absent for us in its supreme transcendent condition, as it were. Even the language is not appropriate. See, condition is to do with all the restriction that we find in time and space and so on, but we still use this language. And so Arjuna is given to understand now that the destruction on this battlefield, which highlights life's drama, the destruction of Bhishma, so revered, and a whole section of Mahabharata is dedicated to Bhishma on the battlefield, giving wise counsel. And Drona, that great heroic master archer. And Karna, the one who is inherently shines with inherent armor and is so skilled on the battlefield. Such a shining example. Don't forget the son of Surya, the sun itself. He who did not want to be the cause of the death of these venerable ones, that was his worry in the first place. He realizes now It's not possible for man to avert the cosmic design, the cosmic rhythm and order of things. Arjun's eagerness to take revenge on Karna, you have to read the Mahabharata to understand this, is now shorn of its personal poignancy and spite. So it's certain that these men of might are going to perish independent of Arjun's instrumentality. Can you see how a reevaluation shifts the whole thing from a personal disappointment or a personal sense of despondency? Despondency is where this began. What a pity. That's where it began and ends up, what a glory. Supposing we're able to shift our attitude from what a pity to what a glory, moment to moment, and see things for what they are in their glorious context, don't you think your life will change? Don't you think there'll be an inner shift within you? Don't you think every part and parcel of your physical being, your mental being, your psychic being will thrill, will have a joy, and a joy that cannot be easily contained, and something that overflows to others? Don't you think that that condition is much better than saying what a pity? So we have to learn to shift from what a pity to what a glory. Why then should he be at all engage himself is a good question. If inevitably things are going to happen, if there's determinism and God's will is going to carry out, then why should I act at all? He'll do it. So that's an important question. And so the necessity for this and for all of us is explained. Tasmat tvam utishta yaso labhasva jitva shatrun bhanksva rajam samritam maye vaiti nihataha purvam eva nimitam atram bhava sasyacham. You therefore, he says, arise and obtain fame. But is this not egoism? He says, please, you become full of fame because you're a warrior, and that's your duty, and you'll get honor and fame. Conquer the enemies and enjoy unrivaled kingdom. By me have they been very slain already, and you be merely an outward cause. And he's calling him Savyasachan. So fame is not an end in itself. It comes as a byproduct. It comes as a result of inner glory. And as long as we are not hooked into the ownership of it, fame is a great example to others. Because every person in this occupation should be filled with fame and honor. And people for eons thereafter would say, this person was an outstanding hero defending the moral values. This is an answer to the question I had. Should we merely stand by and observe things which are unethical, immoral, things which we have the capacity to change? No. But by the same token, don't ever think you are the cause of this change, that you yourself have a personal impact. No, we are simply the instruments. So opposing evil and vanquishing is the duty of this particular occupation called Kshatriya, that is a military person. A policeman has his view, a military person has his role, a housewife has her role, a clerk has his role or her role. See, every occupation has an independent role. This is where your spiritual life lies. This is not about promoting violence. This is about promoting your duty. Do your duty. So prosperous earthly life is no detriment to spiritual progress. It's a great mistake. Oh, let me eschew all wealth. But artha is one of the great aims of life. Wealth creation is one of the great aims of life. Without that, how can you do any good? How can you feed the poor? How can you create orphanages and so on? But be careful when you do all these things with this money. The money is not yours. And you're not doing anything. You're merely being an open channel for God's grace to flow through. And it's that that does all these things. With that attitude, you do it. So the Lord has willed to wipe out wickedness from this world. That's what's clear. And Arjuna is no more confronted with any uphill task. And he's doing it ruthlessly. It is more than sufficient if he, that is Arjuna, merely makes a show of waging the war, plays his part in the drama, and the total destruction of the enemies will be the result. Not just his enemies, but the enemies of dharma, where adharma, where this unrighteousness is. So one who can make a deadly delivery of the arrow with the left hand even, this is the title which is there given to Arjuna. He is invincible in war. This is his skill, this is his talent, this is his reputation. The opportune moment has come to him to show his valor. By being an instrument in the hands of the Lord, he can gain the glory of having defeated Drona and Bhishma. Right action at the right time leads him and us and all of us and the whole of humanity to victory, prosperity, and blessedness. This is not eschewing this life. This is taking it fully on board and using it to the full capacity that we have, doing the best. Then, of course, a doubt arises in the mind of Arjuna whether this vision that he has had just now was not a self-created illusion, a hallucination, rubbing your eyes and waking up and saying, was this real? How real was this? And of course, philosophically, we can answer, of course, it's as real as anything within the framework of something that appears and disappears. It is as real as anything that is momentary, but that's merely our commentary on this. The Lord relieves him of this apprehension in the next stanza, and we'll go into it very briefly. So, Dronam cha, Bhishmam cha, Jaya Dhritam cha. These are various characters. Jayadratha is somebody who unfortunately captured the wife of the Pandavas, Draupadi, and got her as if he was, knowing she was married. And for that he was severely punished and humiliated, actually. But then he did a great deal of penance and so on and so forth. And from that he was given a boon that he could not defeat the Pandavas, but for one day he could slaughter with great skill for just that one day, for 24 hours. He could avoid being slaughtered himself and be very strong on the battlefield. So that's you'd have to read, again, you know, it's worthwhile reading the background to this, wonderful book, this Mahabharata. All right, anyhow. So anyway, slay Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other brave warriors who are already doomed by me. That's the instruction. And don't be distressed with fear. Fight, and you will conquer your enemies in battle.